All right. Welcome to the Housing, Health, and Public Safety Committee meeting. Tonight we're going to be discussing chronic nuisance ordinance that we've been discussing for a couple months here. At the last meeting that we had, we went over and discussed this for about 3 hours and only got 3 pages in. I had a 9-page ordinance before. I have cut it down to 6 pages and took the recommendations of the law department to kind of try to mirror Middletown's ordinance. So what I did was I took the one that Chris and I were discussing and combined it with the Middletown ordinance. So hopefully it's a little more clear, a little more simpler, and no need for any flow charts in order to follow it. Let me just first start off with reading the first paragraph for the purpose, which is chronic nuisance properties present health, safety, and welfare concerns to the city of Norwood and have a negative impact upon the quality of life, safety, and health of the neighborhood in which it's located. In this chapter is enacted to remedy nuisance activities that occur throughout the city of Norwood and affect the citizens by providing a process for abatement. All right, I'll open it up to you guys if you want to start in a specific location or area of this. I know you guys are just kind of mulling over it for the first time.
Last week we were able to go over like what was going to consider you being a nuisance property, like what actions would be
correct, and that's down underneath the definitions where it says nuisance activities.
Yeah. So those are the things that are going to get you on the radar.
Correct, and they're all the same as what we had before in the first one.
Yeah, and they're pretty self-explanatory and pretty, straightforward to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you look over, it's like the assault, the aggravated assault, inducing panic. And then you got things like curfew, a commission of any drug offense, which we'll get into as part of the felony drug offenses towards the, I think, 3rd or 4th page. But the definitions are made slightly clearer than what they were the last time. With definitions, I have things like permit, which is to permit something to go on, what a person is, what a person in charge is, a person associated with property or premise, felony drug activity, and I thought that should, instead of going through I think 11 or 12 that I had before, should cut it down pretty well and explain everything that's in this.
Yeah. Giving James a minute to look through. The violation section seems pretty clear too, as far as, you're in violation if you're a property that's chronically engaging in those activities or those kind of violations.
Yeah, I try to bring it down a little bit. That's why there's only 2 lines in there, and I think Middletown's only had 2 or 3 lines as well.
And it says any person in charge. I'm guessing that's landlord, property owner.
The definition states that any person in actual or constructive possession of the property, including but not limited to an owner or occupant of the property under his or her domain, ownership, or control. Yeah. So that would tell you that would be a property owner. That would also include like third-party property maintenance companies.
Yeah. So, under procedure, section A, it says the chief police or designee, upon finding that 2 or more nuisance activities or 1 felony drug activity declared in this section have occurred within any 6 months period. So it's going to be 2 within the 6 months, and that'll get you on the radar. Is that what that says?
It says 1.
2 activities or 1 felony drug.
So 2 activities would be like,
Yeah.
let's say you have an aggravated assault and an inducing panic. Those are 2 activities. And then it says,
does that contradict what we have under item 1 under chronic nuisance property definitions, where it says property on which 3 or more nuisance activities or 2 felony drug activities?
Which section is that?
A1, the definitions, where it says chronic nuisance property, that then,
yeah, that was
Number
a
1.
typo on my part.
okay. So
That
which
should
is it?
be-
Are we going with 2
2.
or we 3?
2. It was supposed to be 2, not 3.
Good cash, Gabbard.
Or 1 felony drug?
Jeez, oh Pete.
Right there,
Yes.
A1.
Yeah, changing that to 2 or more nuisance activities and or 1 felony drug activity.
Man, I should stop doing this at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I noticed there's no slide for the number of families that live.
I took that out because I was trying to cut it down at the recommendation of the law department because they didn't like that it was 9 pages long. So, when Mr. Gary was in here, he suggested just looking at middle towns and attempting to mirror middle towns, which is, I got it pretty close.
So the law department's reviewed this, and they're good overall with the legalese part of it, not necessarily the policy part.
They haven't reviewed this, but this one is very close to mirroring
Which
middle
they
towns,
recommended.
which is what they recommended in the first meeting. I would almost say that I attempted to not reinvent the wheel on this.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's essentially what I tried to do on the first one. And it became too complicated for the law department to understand, so
Going back to just the A1, A2, so A1 we changed to 2 or more nuisance activities and 1 felony drug offense. And then A2 says property in which the person associated with property is engaged in 3 or more. Should that be changed, or is that supposed to be 3? 3, like,
On which one?
well,
A2.
number 2 is just saying persons associated. So that would be somebody
Yeah,
driving
friend
up in a
comes
car.
over. Yeah, like a friend comes over.
I
or a
think
family.
I think if we leave it to 3, that kind of gives a little more leeway for the landlords.
I just wanted to clarify because we changed the first one.
Yeah, and that's probably why I put 3 in the first one.
Yeah.
So do we change under procedure, number 3 under procedure, that goes to second and first, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So where, just a question, I mean, sorry, I haven't read this entire thing yet. Where, is there like due process for the people cited? So where is their time
Under-
in court, if you will?
Under burden of proof, that's on the next page.
Like, so does it say here though where it's gonna? I'm
So-
guessing, is this merit? I mean, is there?
So essentially what happens is when it's deemed a chronic nuisance, they get the citation.
Okay.
On the next page, I think it's 4, there's a section that shows how somebody can go through an appeals process. I left 3 blanks in there so that we could discuss where we wanted to go. Do we want the appeals process to go to planning?
On the 2E,
Yes. Where the blanks are, that's the start of.
I guess that's, yes.
Well, I was just being patient and waiting until.
Does that mean, so we need to then at least recommend for this ordinance who they would go to make an appeal to?
Correct, and that's why I left some blanks so that we can discuss who the appeal goes to. Do we want it to go to the planning commission? Do we want, I don't think, the safety service director
Right.
shouldn't be doing it.
So just to give a little credence to this, or the backdrop that as we're trying to decide who that goes to, we have the task force is in effect, and it consists of safety service director, law department, building department, health department, police department, and fire department. And they're going to meet, probably start out monthly and go through some things like that. So we obviously can't have representation from, or a representative in charge of the appeals if they're on the task force
Right.
initiating the sites,
Right.
the citing, the incidents. So so that's where we got to come up with who would be in charge now.
You're saying the law director's on it
Yep.
and the safety service director?
Yep.
So, I mean, personally, I think it probably should say either the safety service director or their designee, or, or the designee of the safety service director if you just don't want it to be him, if you want it to be some entity or some person appointed by him. I mean, if I had to pick right now, that's kind of what I would say. It's like I would want to leave it up more to the city administration to figure out exactly how they want to do that. But I wouldn't want to put it on the planning commission. I mean, that's not their real.
Well, and the reason I brought up the planning commission is that was the recommendation from the law department, was that the planning commission take it up.
It's weird. I just think that it sounds kind of weird to me, but
It does sound kind of weird.
I'm not saying that they're wrong.
But
I
it
don't.
would be, no, yeah, and you're right. I agree with that. It's not that we're saying that it's wrong or anything like that. It would be nice to just kind of get what they're understanding, why they say that, what's
Do-
and Mr. Gary is out of town. He left on vacation, I think, today.
Good for him.
And so that's why he's not here. Or else he
Yeah.
would be here.
Do you think it would be possible to do a citizen board of 3 people? But then again, what if one of those citizens are the ones cited?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
I didn't even
we
think
would
of
pick
that.
citizens that wouldn't fall under that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm commend you guys for tackling this issue first. But, I mean, as I read this with you all, it's kind of like I feel like I'm in a bubble maybe all by myself. Because our first thing is to think about, obviously, our residents, but then our homeowners, apartment owners, or whatever. Have we talked to many property owners before the law department decided that the thing in Middletown fits even our community?
So we've been, myself and I know Chris have been inundated with calls about properties that just do not get taken care of. Somehow they slip through the cracks, or they get letters of warning, but nothing really happens and the activity continues, or we've got our police officers running to overdose after overdose after overdose at the same apartment or house. And this here is an attempt to tackle those problems and try to make the community a little bit better.
Well, I just think from certain residents' perspective, I'm just looking at they flow, how their families flow, well, they're already in violation. But I would never want to hurt a business owner. I would never want to hurt the landlord. And the landlords can't always be responsible for Cousin Bobby coming by, and Cousin Bobby is a dope dealer. But Cousin Bobby has a right to visit his cousins. But Cousin Bobby, his way of communicating, his way of doing things, it could be considered a nuisance. The concern that I have is, and I'll give you a specific. One day I was in the police department, and as I was talking to the sergeant, the word undesirables came out of his mouth. And I said, well, if you already look at them as undesirables, then doesn't that have a direct relationship to how you deal with these people? So if we're going to the individuals that have no real insight on how to really diffuse these folks that live a certain way, why would they be the commission, or why would they be the governing body that doesn't understand the sensitive nature of grace and law? I mean, I believe both should exist, don't get me wrong, but just reading through this, I'm like, well, and I don't mean this in a racial way, but we're gonna cite a whole lot of black people.
Well, I understand it's not intended to be a racial thing, and there's laws in here, and that's what we want to uphold. I mean, there's a high need for this, and when this does come to council, I know about 15, 20 people that plan on coming to speak in support of it because they're tired of dealing with people burning mattresses in their backyard, throwing trash in their neighbor's yard, stuff like that, always being a constant problem where they live. I'm a homeowner here myself, and I'm going to be subject to this. I'm not going to be able to just neglect my property or get in a fight in my front yard or backyard and just do what I want either. I mean, this is something that I'm going to have to, everybody else in here is going to be subject to as well. And if I ever chose to move and sell my home and rent it out, I would be responsible for who I rent it to, and I would need to look into their background to see, or do they have a bunch of evictions? If they do, for what? What's going on? Why are they being evicted all the time? Maybe that's not somebody I want to rent to. That's a process that you go through having landlords, and I know this gentleman here is a little concerned, but he goes through that process and he does the best he can, and my talks with him is you can't always, you never know. I mean, this guy could be the best guy in the world, and all of a sudden he comes to your property and he just does all the wrong things. I mean, it happens, and there's going to be people that, unfortunately, their introduction to this or their education on the new policies and procedures we have is going to be getting a letter. Whoa, didn't know we had, now we got to kind of follow it. You know what I mean? I don't think we can't go door to door and tell everybody, hey, we're doing this new thing. Here you go, check it out. But we have to do something to look out for our residents that choose to rent here, that look out for our homeowners that choose to buy homes here, and to make sure that they have a quality of life to uphold. They're coming and they're investing in our community. So I feel that we have somewhat of an obligation to uphold that trust in us that they had coming to invest in this community and look out for them.
And I respect that, guys. And this is one of those issues where you got to have a little bit of both, and I respect that. It's just that when I'm looking at this, it just, to me, and I'm just now getting it tonight, I've never had an opportunity to, I'm not interested in just, like I live in Ward 1.
Yeah.
I'm not just interested in what those folks in Ward 1 would say. I mean, we've got other residents too, and we have other owners. My concern is it just seems like Norwood, historically, the issues that I have had is we move and do things prior to getting enough input. And I respect that you represent a ward, so if 15 homeowners in Ward 1 come, relatively, that's a good voice.
Fair amount.
But when you look at Norwood as a whole, 15 residents, I could have 30 in here tomorrow. I can have 100 in here tomorrow. So 15 really doesn't, in my opinion, before we act on something, it doesn't. In fact, what it looks like to me is that we further propel kind of like this old way of doing things, especially when those that recommend, here, adopt the thing they're doing in Middletown. Well, this isn't Middletown, guys. We have dynamics where we've become much more diverse over the last several years, which I personally love, and I'm sure everybody in here does. But my concern is how you approach something really sets a precedence in the mind of people. And they don't get hit with it until they get hit with it. But you all are talking about it now, yet nobody's here to see that. And my concern is before we put something forward, I always say, in part of my 13-point plan years ago, is make sure you reach. I mean, heavens, you could talk to me, and we could fill this place with residents that haven't yet voiced, or owners that haven't voiced. Because what I would hate to see, guys, just being transparent, I would hate to see a landlord penalized because he wasn't or she wasn't given ample opportunity to maybe go to a tenant that they have in their building, like me, first.
2 calls.
Okay,
And
here,
to say,
Yeah.
That's all, and I'm not trying to be
Well, we have yet to get into that, the nuts and bolts of that.
and when
Yeah,
we
this
were-
ain't like directly, you get cited to court.
No.
There's a process.
That's why
that
we're
leads
talking
up
about
to
the
that.
appeals process. We're talking
yeah.
about we're about to talk about the burden of proof section where it tells you what we have to give,
what we have to
what
prove.
you have, and your ability to appeal. I mean, this isn't a clear cut. You're out of your thing. There is a process here, and we're adopting it from Middletown more based on what I feel to be the verbiage, to be the understanding, the legalities of an ordinance already in play, not necessarily, oh, it works there, it's going to work here. It's not.
and also-
it's less that, more. We need an ordinance. They have one already. We're going to take what we can from it. The legal mumbo jumbo, as it were, not necessarily, well, this works in Middletown, so it must work here on one little specific item, more of a whole.
So what's the timeline before you guys look to really enact this? Because I'm thinking, when I meet, I'm looking for some action and some resolve, so I'm thinking you're meeting to now go and report to the committee at whole and say, this is where the direction we're moving in. And as a resident, I'm just saying, and I just got it tonight, I'm just saying, I would think we're far away from anything that would.
Well, here's the biggest thing that we've been having problems with. There are the out-of-town landlords. You can't get a hold of them. You can't get a hold of the property maintenance companies. Nobody wants to answer the phone, answer letters, and then we have buildings that are falling down. They're renting apartments for $800 that are falling down or look horrible. Overgrown brush. I know you've seen a couple of those.
Absolutely.
And when we can't get a hold of these landlords or these owners who are out of town, we've got to figure out how we can get their attention.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
Do you agree with it? I do agree.
I appreciate more a landlord that is in town who is very cognizant of that property. These landlords from like New York, I've seen really just don't care about this area. Meaning Hamilton County, Butler County, because they're in New York. They want their money and that's it.
Well, I don't want to hold it up, guys. I want to just again say I applaud all of you for addressing this because it needs to be. I see both sides.
Yeah, this is definitely a process. Even when we get to draft form and we place it, on council agenda as an ordinance, this was definitely something that would go through 3 readings where people can come and express their thoughts and concerns,
But they
for or
probably
against.
won't be here for that. And my thing is, if we could get them here, I can.
How do we get them here if they're not going to come already?
Well,
I don't understand how we get them here if they're already not going to come.
I can.
Can I throw some?
Then they should come.
Yeah.
They should be involved and they should come on their own.
But they got gotta feel welcome to come to.
I mean,
Nobody's
If-
saying we can't have them.
I understand.
I think the Reverend's worried about the disparate impact of this on various parts of the community. I'm going to use a specific example that I'm living right this second. And what I'm following is the law. The law doesn't say if you're an out-of-town landlord and you're not taking care of this. The law says 2 calls that you could then be cited, you're a chronic nuisance.
Yep.
And then it has affirmative defenses, which say that, I check everyone's background, but it says and eviction. Leaves me 0 options.
Yeah, that's not.
And he brought up a very good comment is, you guys have had some complaints from people, and there are obvious problems, and again, we do applaud trying to fix it. But perhaps maybe bring some more input from some landlords.
I've tried that. I mean, I've tried that several times in talking to landlords. I can't get anybody to answer the phone.
Well,
Well, I can help you change that.
I think we can work on that a little bit.
That's,
but the only person that I got to Chris, because he's in my ward.
James, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to just note a few things. I think the pastor's right about race and about ensuring that we do make sure that this is written in the most equitable way possible, but also ensuring that we take care of the issues. There have been, over the years, there's been many, many issues. And one of the issues that Norwood has had is because we only have a criminal law when it comes to nuisance type activities. We don't have a civil penalty. And so it has been an issue because, as Mr. Geraci correctly noted, there is, you're not going to go to Vegas and extradite a landlord here to cite them under our Norwood Mayor's Court. So
if you read the next page under B, it states, the chief of police or his designee shall assess a civil penalty.
I got you. I'm talking about I'm talking about where we are now. So I'm more speaking in support of the ordinance. So long story, essentially, I think that there is there's a high need for something like this. But I do agree, like I said, with Mr. James about just ensuring the impact. As far as the landlord items, I definitely want to make sure. I mean, this is the first I've had the full version of this. I don't know if I just missed it in my email. If I did, I apologize. But yeah, I definitely could take this to some landlords myself and make sure that we're reviewing it. I mean, I have 25 units from in the city of Norwood myself, and all of them I bought from out-of-town landlords. All but a couple of them basically from slumlords, and we've done a lot of work to improve them and make them nice properties. I drive by them at least a couple of times a week just to make sure everything's good. And so, long story short, is I have access to it. I'm there. I'm looking. We try to make sure things are as good as possible. But Mr. Geraci was right. These out-of-town landlords don't necessarily do that. I do want to, and I do agree with Mr. James too, that we need to make sure that we're looking at the impact on the landlords, and especially make sure that we don't actually. If we're putting an affirmative defense here that the landlord does eviction checks. And if they don't do if they rent to somebody that's had a prior eviction, I think that could potentially be discriminatory as well, because if people have past evictions and now they can't get housing in the city of Norwood, because that can be used against the landlord if it were to come to court that, oh look, we sometimes will allow somebody with an eviction.
What section is that under?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I just heard
C.
it. I heard it here. So
2 notice, burden of proof and affirmative defenses in C. And that's I'm going straight to the point. And here's a situation that just happened to me. 2 calls to the police one night, it's been a couple weeks ago now, because someone had a birthday party for like their uncle or their brother-in-law in the parking lot. I don't really think that specific person intended for it to become such an issue. Now, it was at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And I don't want the police to be called and bothered. I think that is a nuisance. I'm just not quite sure what to do, if you want me to be honest.
7, 8 o'clock, you can still be loud at 7, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's
Right.
within the noise
Police came,
ordinance.
The police came and couldn't do anything, I guess, although I questioned that, but that's not my business. It wasn't at 9 o'clock, they dispersed the party.
Okay.
Because they knew that was and they did, but the police were still called twice. Now, as far as I'm reading here, it doesn't say that that's 2 police calls.
You're looking at a general call. What these intend on the nuisance activities are citations, arrests, something that.
Yeah, where there's something actually already done, like the high grass.
We're not say that somewhere, because here it says disturbing the peace call.
Correct. Now, there's an ordinance within the Norwood codified codes that you can be cited for disturbing.
Oh, so this is only if they're cited?
Yes.
So that's going to be an issue as well
Can you
because
show me where it says that?
the Xavier, yeah, I was going to say, because I mean, we call for Xavier parties. If it's after 11, and the police, all they do is go and tell them, hey, just break it up. And,
Well, what we would like to happen is if it's after 11, it's outside the noise ordinance,
I mean,
if they get it, fine.
if everybody's wanting me to
I'm
add
just saying
things,
how it normally happens right now.
I'll
They
go
break
back
it
to
up,
that
and the
page.
parties usually stop.
Well, then we need to fix that, right?
I gotcha. I'm just.
But see, here's.
I agree. And that's something I talked to Mike about was, he's like, well, why is the landlord being held accountable but not the individual? That's an enforcement issue. That is not, I mean, this can say what it says, and it will say that they will get a ticket or whatever, but that's something that we need to speak with the health department, building department, police department, to ensure that they are enforcing this to the letter of the law. That's what we want, and that's what we need. And with Xavier Properties, that doesn't seem like it's going on. And I understand the cops, whenever they can show up, hey, you guys are having a party, good time, I get it. But at the same time, you're outside the law, here's a citation.
Because the
That's
pastor,
what needs to happen.
The pastor could be right in the sense that, it's the Xavier houses that, they just say break it up, but it could be other houses that they may not, that they may get.
Well,
I
I
want
mean,
this
we could
enforced
change
by
that.
I just know what I see in my neighborhood, so.
Well, and this is where, the law department's gonna,
The Xavier
come back
Properties,
with us with clearing up this language. But even in just the definitions, property in which two or more nuisance instead of activities, citations, or one, felony drug activity have occurred in 6 months.
That gets you
If there's
closer.
citations,
Yeah.
That gets you
Yes.
closer because now I've done something and I'm aware of it. You've
well,
made me-
but it's in here, and we just haven't been able to get into it yet, because we've been talking about it.
All I'm concerned about, guys, really, the residents that I know, that no one in this room could really even address, but the way we approach a thing, and I think Mr. Bonzo sees that, the way we approach a thing, when we put it in the hands of the law, a lot of times, unfortunately, and look around the country, individual officers exercise things differently.
Well,
So you have
I
to-
understand that. This is meant for the task force that we have right now.
But the task force is up of the individuals that are still part of the status quo that have a particular mindset, guys. And I'm gonna, listen, I
All right.
applaud you all,
Can-
and I know you have to do something.
Can we get back into this so that we can kind of,
I was going to
Well,
finish my
let me
comment.
just say this too. I mean, we're not putting this together with any sort of like malice or.
No,
We want this to be enforced to the letter for everybody. They come to my house and I'm having a big party. It's 12 at night. My neighbor's calling. I'm probably getting cited. You know, like. But that's not fair if it's not like that. We're not putting this together thinking we're just going to pick and choose.
I agree, sir.
I mean, we're sitting here putting together something that's going to affect people negatively if they go against it.
see the difference.
Anybody that goes against it should be. You can say that about any law and enforcing it. We need to have a sit down with the people that will be enforcing it and say how we want it enforced.
And that's good because laws are enforced inconsistently at times, and there has been a
And that's
history of
wrong.
that. And I agree. Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think that's the point that was being made. So
But you're
Yeah.
there and you know. So as a landlord, and I mean, I'm not much different than Chris. Chris lives a little closer, but I'm here at least a few times a week. And if I don't know, and the police don't actually, if you would just give these people a ticket, they'll probably quit. And this would be the end of the story.
And
well,
they
and
would be cited.
that's not always that's not always the case.
That's true, but
That's not always the case. Okay, I know multiple people that have been cited multiple times for the same thing and they still are living in that building. Because
Then that is a problem.
the landlord's just,
That's kind of where we're coming at with this. That's why we're having this, well, that's why we have this, is so we can go through, we come up with an idea, because we're only 4 of 7 that would vote on this. So, we want to come up with this idea because I know I've had issues and continue to have issues with like one particular neighbor who they've been cited, they don't even have driver's license, they still drive, everybody sees them driving.
Yes.
All those kind of things,
And that's an issue.
loud
Yeah.
noise, all those kind of things. That's a problem.
Call me out.
Yeah.
Now, so what this is to do is what we're having problems with is like your hand. It's like the thumb doesn't know what the pinky's doing, doesn't know what the middle finger's doing. Meaning, the police department goes and they've cited an individual or whatever at a particular property a few different times. And the health department has been there because the grass, they've cited them a couple times because of high grass. And the fire department has made X amount of calls there. Well, because none of them were talking before, when they all get together, and when I met with them and I said, I guarantee that if I ask for your top 5 problem properties, not houses, not apartments, properties, I guarantee that if everybody put their top 5 in, there would probably be 3 properties that every single one of those departments are having problems with currently. So then we deal with those. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
This is not a nitpick thing, even though you have to put something in place so you can get to those 3 properties. But it's not a nitpick thing to go after every landlord and everything like that. My personal opinion is if it's your property, you take ownership. I don't care if you live here or not. You better take ownership. And if you got problem people living in there, either they got to go or you got to go. Something's got to go. Because it's not fair to the people that actually pay taxes in that area, that live next door to it and all that. So we've got to do something and put something into place. That's what we're going at. But this is just trying to say, okay, these are the things, the little pieces of the puzzle we want to put together. Like language, instead of it being activities, there needs to be, hey, you've had X amount of citations.
Citations.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And then even that, there's a step process that, you get to, then you're going to get a letter. Hey, there's a problem here. What's going on? You could be, the next step could be, X, Y, Z, and go through it that way.
Yeah,
so that's kind of where we're at.
I think it's important to note, too, on top of what Mr. Gabbard just said, is what we're doing here is not writing the enforcement. We're not writing how to enforce it. We're writing the law. And the law is the standard. And to be able to enforce anything, we have to have that set, clear standard. Whether there's an enforcement issue or not currently, like Mr. Bonzo's saying, and I think there has been, and that's not right. That's a different discussion. What we're trying to do here is create that standard that we can then enforce. And I don't think anybody on council, anybody in administration wants this enforced kind of like this. No, we want it enforced to the letter. And I'm not going to try to speak very well, but I think everybody's kind of there. But to enforce it or even talk about how we're going to enforce it, which should be to the letter, we have to set that standard in place. And that's what we're trying to do with this.
And I respect what you guys are trying to do. With this, the goal, what type of a timeline are you looking to actually have something enforceable in place? That's really looking at the approach and seeing how, from what I'm hearing, that's what I'm interested to report back to the residents. What's the timeline that you're looking to? Not in a perfect world, because nothing's perfect, but are you looking to have this thing in place relatively soon without more of a broad-based perspective? Or
what meeting are you trying to get it to at council? Like the second meeting in July? Is that kinda...
July?
Well, we're already at the end of June.
Yeah, we canceling the second meeting in July. I don't know if we're canceling it because we used to for the parade thing.
Oh, we did use it. I doubt we will this time then, if there's no parade, so. Is there, yeah.
Yeah, I would
what
like
they
to have
do.
this for the second meeting in July.
Okay, so then that would
still
mean that the
puts you
last,
a month and a half after that.
yeah, last
with
meeting,
3 meetings.
and then there's still, it won't go into effect for 30 days after that, so.
Well, I mean, that's if we go through readings. If we have it all at once or have 2 and then 1, we don't know.
Oh, this is a 3 meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like the bike ordinance.
I'll just say people every one.
Well, I'll sit back now. I appreciate you guys at least listening. I just want to, when we're talking about the property owners, you also have to think that people have Airbnbs in our community and they're not here. And then what do you do with them? And see if you don't enforce whatever you all recommend. You've got to understand that's part of the history of Norwood that's plagued us. And I believe everybody here, like you said, you're not trying to, you just want it fair. I believe that. I just think we should put in a little more time before we try to even package it. If you want, I can have a bunch of people here.
I can
Even
say,
some of the
I can say
problems,
this
and
is,
then I'll have them say, oh, I didn't know that's what y'all were trying to do. My bad, I'll just stop doing it, Pastor James.
I can
That
say
would be
this is
great if
my-
we could do that, and that's how
I'll
it
do it.
worked, but it's not how it's gonna work for every property, every person, every
this is the second
person that comes
draft.
to that property. It's just not feasible.
Well,
It's
if
just,
you have a
in a
nuisance
perfect
property-
world, that would be amazing.
Well, if you have a nuisance property in my neighborhood, I don't think too many nuisance characters are nuisance to me. I can deal with it, and I'm your peer. Whatever I can do to help this along, I promise you, I'm willing to commit. So if you have certain properties and we can't address it, first, let's try. I mean, I can probably tell you already who they are. I'm just saying, to be honest with you.
That's a lot of properties in Norwood and a lot of potential
but they-
nuisance properties to just go try to ask them to be better.
Well, but that's kind of what I,
And in a lot of these situations, a lot of the neighbors have already tried that.
well, but they don't have that relationship. And so then it becomes us against them. Whereas if it's we, and we are saying, we don't want things to look a certain way, so we are here to talk, so that we can live together peacefully. There are ordinances coming into play. Some of those ordinances, my brother, is gonna get you cited and eventually get you and mama to court. So mama ain't gonna be able to go to work. Mama's gonna have to,
I mean, I personally think that that's something that can be done throughout the process of these meetings like this, 3 readings that we had at council. I mean, those are things that can be,
see, these people don't respond to that place.
Well-
I'm just being honest with you.
I mean,
I mean,
so,
we are a nation of laws already, and that's what we have to
But we're a
understand.
people of peaceful and unity, and I'm telling you, I'm
Can-
offering this to you. I can tell you 4 properties right now that I promise you all have an issue with. I'm in the schools, when the schools have problems with these families and kids, they call me privately and say, hey, Pastor James, would you come and meet with us about this? And we deal with those issues, and they work.
I bet you'd be surprised. I bet that if we looked at the city's top 5 list of properties, I would bet maybe only one is probably on your list. Like, I think though that we're looking at different things here. I mean, potentially. However, I will just let me say 2 things, and then I'm going to yield so we can get back to
And
this.
so will I.
So, with race, I mean, Middletown is 81% white, Norwood's 87%, according to some of the data that I found online. So they've also tried to figure out a way to make it work. Not that that means that it's perfect, but I'm just saying that it's not that Middletown is this all-white enclave, like it's not a Mason, you know what I mean? Like there is some diversity there, so hopefully some of that's been worked out in that, but we can find out. The other part is I just want to say that even though I'm going to have some critiques of this, I do think overall it's a good thing we're moving in this direction. I think it's been needed, so looking forward to working on.
Should we move on to the appeals process?
Actually, how about we go through just page by page?
That's what I was hoping
All
to
right.
do, and we started jumping around.
All right, let's
I think that's where we're at right now is the
Let's
appeals
start with,
process.
let's just start with page 1, and we'll go through and say what we need to X out or change, or, hey, this language needs to be
As long as we
referred
can have
to.
at least one more meeting, because again, I haven't had a chance to really
yeah,
review this
yeah,
deeply.
yeah.
But if we can have one more meeting before we present it to council, that's all I'm at. But yeah, I'm fine with that.
So the only things that I personally, I'll go ahead and start is in A1, where under chronic nuisance property, we changed that from 3 to 2, and then the 2 to 1 with those. And then I would suggest changing the language from activities to citations.
Okay, I've got those changes on my copy.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Can I suggest adding, basing some difference for the number of units? You're treating my 24-unit building with 24 families who don't meet your racial criteria. That's really not a point, but
I can look to add that in, but again, I was
I think
strongly advised by the law department to knock it down from 9 pages. And I could only knock it down 3 pages.
Yeah, but I mean,
Mr. Tracy, I
we
think
shouldn't make legislation based on what the law department, though,
Well,
like what they.
Mr. Tracy, I think it would be absolutely feasible to add in like a 3rd and 4th line to that chronic property with like a 1-sentence thing where it says 4 units or
Per 4 units.
2 units to 6 units or whatever is this many in a month, or this many in a 6-month
Okay.
time, and over that is that many in that 6-month time. I think that would be better, that would be fair, and that's something I did like in the original.
Can I get a point of clarification? We're now down to 2 nuisance activities or 1 felony drug activity in 6 months?
For a house. If we're gonna add in, if we're
Let's say
gonna,
I do have a single family house, but then I have 1 activity, and you're saying I have to evict them.
if you have a felony drug activity,
We're not saying you have, we're just, we've not
one
gotten-
felony drug activity, 2 nuisance citations.
1 felony drug activity, their brother or their whatever gets cited on the property or something though, and I have to evict them, or try to. You were, but I'm just trying to see what it says right now.
And I,
Pretty rough for,
that has to be
that
looked
much
at.
extra
And
policing
this
power.
doesn't say house. I think Chris said house, but this is property. But then I think you said add in another to.
Yeah, so I would like, and I asked Mr. Drake, I would like there to be a 3rd and 4th line, add in, so 2, like a 2-family, like a house, a 2-family house, where there's more units, 2 4-unit would be, I think, we can add in a couple more citation allowances, and then a 5-unit plus category along there, that we add in a couple more citations. I think that would be fair, because there's more tenants living there. That is something I liked in the original. But it was lengthy. I think we can trim it down to read just as the A1 and A2 read under the chronic nuisance property section.
What if we do it? What if we do it by individual unit though?
Can't.
Yeah, so we can't say
How are we
2
gonna
or more
keep track?
nuisance activities.
So we talked
in
about
one
this in the
unit.
first meeting, and you were out. But we talked about that, and the law department was saying that
A lot of times.
somebody's out in the parking lot.
Okay.
Well, what unit do you live in? 4, but they live in 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
It
Yep.
would just be a little too hard to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if somebody has a beef against number 4 and he says, yeah, I live in 4, and then all of a sudden
Right.
he
But
says it a second time.
Yeah.
Now 4 is, now 4 who is like the model.
And I promise after
Tenant.
this, I'm gonna let you go through this, because I think it still needs a lot. Mr. Bonzo just hit the nail on the head. Thank you. It shouldn't be, and this is my concern, we always seem to put it in the hands of those that think and operate like status quo from people like me, okay? So to put it in their hand, of course they're gonna say that. But he has a very good point. I just got out of prison yesterday. I'm gonna go visit my homie, okay? And you're an officer, you come up and you see me, and because of officer choice, now you pull me over, right? The neighbors have cited and said, oh, I saw him do such and such a thing. That is, I've got that. So now he is out because Bobo came home and was hanging around. That's one.
Well, again, I think that's more on the lines of an enforcement issue rather than the verbiage and language in the law. I mean, we could add in a line that none of these laws will be treated discriminatory. I don't know,
That doesn't work. Look at the country.
I mean, but that's more of an enforcement conversation than a law written conversation, I think.
But from where I stand, guys, and after this, I promise I'll just be quiet, because I think I've said enough. I'm here because I know I represent a certain element at times, and I just think we've got to slow it down as Mr. Gabbard said, we got to put this in place. It's needed.
Yes.
I'm with you. I'm just saying though, we're really, to me, just kind of repeating some of the old ways that we've done things, and people that I know oftentimes get the brunt of the consequences of that. And then you have the homeowners who are going to be victimized by it. So you guys really this is one of the toughest issues I think we can address here in this city. So I applaud you guys. I really do. But I think we need to slow it down. July,
and it's
even to start it, you got to get a little bit more than what you got. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I have a story just from a resident just 2 days ago. I had 3 residents right around this property call me, same night, talking till about 11 on the phone, where somebody came outside after their significant other with a butcher knife, where their kids are out there playing.
now that's attempted
Should we
murder.
slow that down?
Why aren't the police arresting him for something?
Now, Chris.
Is my understanding that they followed the vehicle later and apprehended one of them. But should we slow that down for them when there's kids out playing and stuff like this happening? Though this is an extreme case.
Right, okay, thank you.
Now, you also have to
It's
look.
still, we want to nip all of this in the bud, not just one thing or another.
You also have to look at it this way, okay? Guy gets chased out of his house by his wife with a butcher knife. Police show up, okay? Because they were called. Girl puts the knife away. Police are like, oh, we got 2 people out here. We were told 2 people were fighting. What's going on, guys? Not a thing. Not a thing.
I agree.
At that point, they can't file charges.
But the way
'cause they don't
the law
have-
is right now,
they don't have
it's
anybody-
to a victim.
They don't
There is
have
no
anybody
law
there.
right now.
Well,
The way this, what we're
If
gonna
they're
say-
cited,
No, we already said that it's gonna be cited, so they wouldn't even be cited in that. That wouldn't
So-
even be in a citation.
But even if they were cited, so I think we also need to be careful too and ask the law department's opinion. I mean, that would be domestic violence, right? Is that what that?
If it's arrested, but an arrest is considered a citation is considered an arrest.
Well, I'm just saying, as a landlord, like the Violence Against Women Act of 2005 prohibits me as a landlord from discriminating against somebody because of domestic violence, and specifically, I can't try to
Domestic
evict-
violence isn't in here.
I'm just saying.
I believe that is discriminating them in an event of a past charge.
No, even in correct.
for
I
domestic
can't
violence.
I can't evict them for domestic violence charges or penalize them for domestic violence, because that way they don't want to cause the woman not to want, or the man not to want to call the police. So it's just saying we want to be
But
careful.
again, domestic violence is not part of
What
this.
you described though sounded like domestic violence, so that's what
It could be assault.
But see,
and I don't know how that plays in with that. Okay.
All right, so
Well,
just to
On
get
the
it
other
back
side of
in,
the badge. Go to the other side of the badge.
just to get it back in a little bit.
The other side of the what? Can you clarify that?
You gotta look, what about?
Yeah, I don't have a badge.
get on the other side of the
Get on
road.
the other
Guys,
side. See, that's what-
Mr. Tracy, can I make a
right.
suggestion? I wanted that in on A2, 2 lines for
I've got it
multi-units. Can I make a suggestion for the numbers? So for 2 to 4 units, 4 nuisance citations and 2 felony drug offenses. And then for 5+ unit buildings, 6 nuisance citations and 2 felony drug convictions. Not raising the felony drug conviction part, because that's something we should not really be tolerating.
I will evict for that and I can win in court. I mean, we
Yeah.
haven't addressed that either, Mr.
Yeah.
Bonzo was about to.
I
I
don't-
can't always just win in court.
Yes, and again, when we talk too, is in the burden of proof section where it's, you got your appeals and that, we want to be able to give you everything we have on that property. So that's definitely something that we want to do, is make it easier for you in that process.
So you said again, I know plus 5 units,
Yeah, so
6 citations, 2 felony drug
Yes.
convictions. The first part you said,
Like 2 to 4 units, it
Oh,
would
2
be,
to
it would
4
be,
units, thank you.
yeah, 4 nuisance citations and 2 felony drug offenses.
So are we going to leave
The first one would
No.
stay 2 and 1.
2 and 1 for homeowner?
Just a regular house, yeah.
Regular
so
house?
property, it'll say
Yes.
homeowner. Is that, I'm just trying to get.
It'll
clear.
say single family unit.
Yeah, single family
I'm just
dwelling
trying to get
unit,
clear,
yeah.
so, yeah. 'Cause I got a family on Clay that's waiting for me to.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely go a long way in giving some comfort to our landlords with multiple units,
That's very
so it's more fair and
Is
it's,
that
Right, the
apply
price varies.
to Xavier folks as well?
if they're in multi-units, I mean,
Most of
Would
those are
have
not
to.
multi. I mean, most of those are not 5+
yeah.
unit.
So if for them being a 2 or 4 family, that rule would apply for them, so they would have to get 4 citations in a 6-month period.
They do
But-
get citations.
We're not
They do
gonna,
get citations.
yeah, we're not gonna do it one way or the other. We're gonna do it the right way. To where they would get, if they're in a 2 to 4 family unit, they would have to get accrue 4 citations or 2 felony drug convictions in a 6-month period.
Because on Clay, all right, I don't know if that has been applied. And
Well,
that's why, I mean, I'll
If you have
challenge that.
concern about it,
Well, not
we'll
me,
make-
but
we'll
the
make sure
residents
that-
was
we'll make
just
sure
there
that
today.
they start getting
Yeah.
cited.
A lot,
But I'm pretty sure that they
A lot
do.
of the nuisance property complaints we've heard have been, and the ones I've seen even before I came to office, was Xavier Properties.
That
And
was-
Xavier's
that
parties.
was some
I mean,
of mine.
it's no mystery in Norwood there either.
No,
Like, it's,
wide open
it is an
property.
issue. It is an
Those
issue,
owners
and
are not, they're not,
the homeowners up there, they're begging for help. you know, a lot of them are, and we want to help them too. We want to help
Right, yeah,
everybody.
yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. Gabby, I'm sorry.
No, you're
No, you're
fine.
good.
Don't even worry about it.
But I want Gabby to, stronghold me after.
No, conversation creates debate. Debate creates results. But we do gotta
We gotta
talk.
move on.
Yeah.
So we done with page 1?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Yes.
All right, page 2.
I personally don't see anything wrong with page 2. It lists out what is going to be a nuisance violation, and it gives the definitions of the verbiage used. Does anybody else see an issue on page 2?
I mean, yeah, no, I don't, not necessarily.
Have we really identified the term nuisance?
I mean, I think we're using the
Yeah, it's
dictionary version.
nuisance
here.
activities
No,
are
it
right.
would be in the law.
No, there's, yeah, it's there.
And it's
It's
pretty
on-
clear.
Are you wanting what a nuisance is?
Yeah,
There-
what is our law interpreting as a nuisance?
Well, it's calling it a nuisance activity, and
Yeah,
then
what I mean,
nuisance.
what is a nuisance activity?
Yeah, so it's there. It's in B.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, it lists all these.
It's in the definition on page 1.
Yeah.
B.
I'm sorry, on which?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. So it's page 1, and then B, and then there's 11 items there.
Definition?
Yep, yep. The only so we it just says
Nuisance,
chronic. Then next, then go down to B, nuisance activities.
yeah, nuisance, assault, aggravated
Yeah.
assault.
So on page 2 for me, the only thing I would say is we talked about getting citations for number 2, but then item 9, we talk about item 9, 10, 11, abandoned refrigerators and things, junk, trees, weeds. It just says as defined, but it doesn't say actually cited, and so I was just curious our intent.
Because those can be cited by the health department under their.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same with 10.
Same thing.
Would
It can be
be,
cited
yeah.
under the health department.
Right.
Okay.
And 11.
Yep.
Well,
Same thing. That can be cited as well.
Gambling. So, as they're shooting dice, they're.
a couple years ago they were on the news shooting.
But it's
British
a
Sherman market.
cultural thing.
I missed that. I missed that.
It's a cultural thing. That's
I missed that one.
That's what we do.
I think it was 2 white men, but
But that's already the law. That's not.
Yeah, that's not
us
our
adding
law.
it.
That's the law.
These aren't anything that we're creating.
Yeah. We're taking in the already existing laws, we're putting them in this big little bin and saying, if you do this, you
Oh,
get
yeah, all
this.
we're saying is, we're just defining out all these different things, more or less.
Black people shoot dice. I'm just saying.
White people
Black
shoot
people
dice
do
I
shoot
too.
don't
dice.
mean in a racial
Yeah, I'm
thing. What
just-
I'm saying is, they do that.
I know white people that shoot dice.
It's not a,
But it's already the law. That's not us.
We're not.
That's
we're
just
not creating.
All we're saying, we could just say, anything you get cited for that's currently on our books, period.
and there are
That's more or
cities
less
that
it.
do that. I don't necessarily agree that way, but there are cities that do
Well, I
that.
feel sorry.
There absolutely are, and I tried to ferret out a little bit. I tried to not include every single thing that's in our ordinance.
Well, you got to get cited
How
though.
dangerous? Oh, boy. Frequenting disorderly house. Is that a citation?
So we have a disorderly house ordinance on our books. So if somebody continuously comes to a disorderly house and creates a more chaotic environment every single time that they come over,
Oh, I got you. Someone's visiting. It's
Correct.
creating- Is that you get citations someone can get?
yeah, somebody can get disorderly house citation. That's typically what Xavier students get cited for.
Okay.
Disorderly house.
so, Mike, I understand you got these concerns and you're saying that, so you're going to, if you use your appeals thing, and again, we keep stopping and going back and stopping and going back. If we're going to cite you, or we're going to say, hey, you're a nuisance property, we're going to have to show you're cited at that property. We're not just going to say, well, the one guy, the one thing, and the yellow jacket did that.
I agree.
We have to show that they're being cited, so.
Which I will do.
Well, we've not gotten to that point yet. We can't force you to evict anybody. As far as I've I've not read this whole thing, but as far as I can see back here, you're just going to get fines. That's up to you.
Yeah.
We're just going to hit you in the pocketbook.
Yeah, you can evict them or not.
However you
but
wanna
we're
do
just
it, yeah.
gonna fine and fine, I mean. Okay, so we're on page 3, violation and procedure. I personally, again, don't see anything. We've discussed it.
And just like activities, those will just be changed to citations, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, well, actually I do, under procedure number A, it has the police chief is designated upon finding 2 or more nuisance activities. So the activities will be citations.
Yeah.
And then we'll add in the verbiage for the multi-unit properties
Yep.
as stated, yeah. So that would be a fix.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to do is the health department orders, are those considered citations?
The green card, the green stickers, I believe.
Those are citations?
Yeah,
I thought they were orders.
No.
No,
They're
those are
orders,
orders
but
and then
Those are
citations.
orders,
they
but
cite you
those are
down.
citations.
I'm just
yeah.
saying, just want to make sure the verb, I mean.
Those
I
are
understand,
orders,
so.
but the health department can cite. So like,
Yeah,
I
so
do
so if
know-
somebody gets a green card on their door because they didn't cut their grass, that's not this.
Right.
Okay.
But if you ignore it and you say
And you get
whatever,
cited to
you
court.
get cited to court, that is what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
'cause
Because we talked about this and there'd be a lot of people, well, I didn't cut my grass, you're gonna fine me and all that, take me to court.
I was gonna say, because they
Yeah,
very, I mean,
like,
it's
so
very rarely does anybody
we
get
don't want
fined
them
right now.
affected by that, and if we're doing every green card, I mean, there's gonna be
Yeah,
a lot of
That'd
people.
be crazy.
Yeah.
That's not.
Right.
No, for sure. And then the question is it just getting, like, actually being cited to court, or is it the court actually, like, finding them guilty?
Cited.
So it's just getting the citation, not the
Yeah.
guilt part, okay.
Because if you're getting cited by the health department going out of town to court, you've kind of made some bad
Plus, our
decisions.
mayor's court is the most probably lenient
I was
one in
just
the
about to
country.
Yeah.
say, to
God.
actually get them to enact a
All you got to
fine
do is say, I
is-
need more time, and he'll give you 60 more days, over something that should be, all right, don't get me started on that, because that's just
Mr. Gabbard
ridiculous.
is not wrong.
Okay,
So
anything else on
those
this
are the only
page?
problems I had on page 2 is changing that language and adding in the
Three.
language for the multi-unit buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I have no other problems. Well, actually, under D, we should add that in too, add in language for the multi-units.
Under D.
Under procedure, number D.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the law department's not gonna like you.
Well, it's just an
Mr.
extra
Drake's
sentence.
gonna be making
I mean,
these-
we're adding in an extra sentence or two.
But I agree with you, Bonzo, that it shouldn't have been a matter of the page.
No.
It should be a matter of the right.
Well, I think they were
Well,
worried about
that's-
the enforcement.
and that's what
ease.
that's what I thought, because my 9-pager was initially 16 pages, so I cut it down to 9 pages because I knew I was going to get chewed out, and I still got chewed out for 9 pages.
You just do the opposite of college kids, you make the text the font smaller.
Because what happens here that I've noticed is that we throw out ordinances that are this big and very vague.
Yeah.
And that's what irritated me. And I wanted something that spelled everything out to a T so that somebody could follow it and go, you can't question
Which
this.
goes to Chris's thing, accountability in terms of executing the law
Yeah.
fairly.
And that's definitely something we're gonna have conversations, especially with task force and those all saying, hey, we're not just gonna pick on this property, that property, we're gonna enforce this, how it should be enforced.
Citywide.
Yeah.
But are we gonna have a resident piece in this because
As in,
part of the,
Well,
Somebody-
as I said earlier, if we have a resident involved, let's just say me, for instance.
just to say it.
Let's just say me, for instance. Let's say you.
yeah,
Let's say you, for
Son
instance.
James is on task force, yeah.
Okay. Let's say Pastor James is on this task force. All of a sudden, Pastor James gets cited for something within this.
Oh, yeah,
Now-
you pick somebody that's gonna be a team player as well.
Correct.
Oh, we're not picking the task force. The task force was already done.
Yeah,
What I'm
it's,
saying though is, in everything, Gabby, I just think we need resident buy-in. In order to get resident buy-in, you need that resident inclusion. I'm a strong proponent of that. Let's check out Philadelphia. It works. So that's all I'm saying. And I've said 5 times, I'm not gonna say anything else, Gabby. It's your fault. You
No.
just keep luring me in.
Well, so on the next page, where we have the blanks, I think I like James' idea where it says SSD gets to pick somebody, designate somebody to.
I think we should probably ask, did you say you already talked to the law department?
yeah, and even the last meeting
Yeah.
they had, and then even the council meeting after that last meeting that we had, they had suggested the planning commission. Because the planning commission goes through all this stuff and knows all this anyway.
I just can't. Yeah. So I've gone through this process with the city of Cincinnati, just with the property I have there. and they have this Office of Administrative Hearings. I mean, of course, we're not creating a whole office for this. I'm just kind of describing. And essentially, what it is, you get, if you want to appeal the civil fine, you can, and they charge a $75 fee to do that. I'm not advocating we do that here. I don't think it's fair. But essentially,
let me add that in real quick.
Right. But essentially, long story short about it is, so you have the hearing, right, and you have this administrative judge that's all civil, and they will issue a ruling, yes or no, and you have the person there that cited you, what would be Dale, whoever. But anyways, long story short, they have that, like, there's this formal setting kind of for that. So I'm not advocating that everything has to be exactly like that, but hopefully it's not just the safety service director sitting in a room saying, yes or no. Hopefully there's some more thought into it, and it looks like we're trying to get there.
Well, what you were suggesting, and I agree with that you said earlier, is having the safety service director appoint somebody to look over these.
Exactly.
So I'm okay with that. If he wants to appoint a 3-person panel, or
I would agree with that.
I mean,
You want to hear my suggestion?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Might be off the wall and outlandish. We have a 3-person resident panel that that Pastor James here, we task him with finding those people that he believes will not be in violation of this.
Well, I think that,
Now we're talking.
So we're going to put Sonny James's name in the ordinances.
Well, don't do that.
No.
Gabby's already.
I don't like
say
the,
we
I
have
don't like the idea
well,
of a
I-
resident panel, because then that's 3 other people that could potentially be affected by
Right,
this
but
and say,
what
oh, I
I-
don't like this.
I
But
think
you
if-
get community buy-in and you
I
get
think if
people
we have a
from
resident panel, we have people that we know are not going to fall under this.
Right.
There's plenty of people within the city of Norwood we know are not going to fall under this.
I
I
like
would
to-
recommend, if we're gonna have a 3-person panel, then
One-
you would have one
one
resident, one property owner kind of thing, and one business owner.
Thank
I like that
you.
idea.
That way it covers all properties that are within. That way there's a representative of each type of properties, and, now you have a
I'll-
3-person
I mean,
panel.
My suggestion wasn't a joke. I felt like, and he kind of jumped the gun when he said public participation, because I was trying to get to this part so I could ask to see if we could have a panel of
I think
residents.
if we're going to do it this way, the way Mr. Gabbard said, we should maybe pick those people or decide on those people. Is that in our purview, or are we allowed? I mean, we can take all suggestions. and-
why don't,
You could do like the head of the Chamber of Commerce or something, the head of the botanical garden of,
Well, we got to make sure that they want to do that, because
Yeah.
they could turn us down.
so
I
what,
say
but,
post it, let everybody know, you got your homie Stromey here, we'll get the field troops out, everybody in the city will know about it, those that are interested will come forward, and then you pick from there. If they don't show up, you can't be held accountable.
yeah, I'm kind of torn on this versus having some kind of a hearing officer or something versus just, not just 3 residents, but 3 residents. I don't know. Yeah, to me, who would appoint these people if they were residents? Would it be the council would approve the appointments? Would it be the mayor?
I would
appoint
suggest
them?
that
The safety service director?
I would suggest that we discuss it here
Yeah.
and then take those to council,
Take
To
those
vote on the
recommendations.
appointments of
To
that,
vote
like
on
we
it.
did with all
Correct.
the other boards, yeah.
just like we.
So we
did
would
with the other
we
ones.
would gather the resumes or interest letters or whatever we want to pick, and that would show kind of who they are, what they do. Like if I own this many properties, or I own this business. If they show interest, so then we would talk about it, and we could maybe select those and then take those, like you said, out, recommend it out to council to be appointed to this kind of appeals board.
Should we have one of the people be somebody from the city, like a building commissioner or?
I
We
think
can't,
that
because the building commissioner is part of this.
I think we could have one designee that the SSD says, one property owner, one resident.
So-
I like that idea.
So the only thing is I mean, when we say that these people are on the task force, the task force is not actually citing the people. I mean, it's
Yes.
the police department that's doing it, right?
Well, that's
No,
part
it's
of the.
each of those departments. 'Cause
Or
they
meetings.
each
Well,
cite-
each of those might be cited. I gotcha.
So like building violations, they can cite their own building violations. The point of having the task force is that they're all talking together and it's going on to one form.
Right.
So they all know what's going on.
Okay.
So
That's
if
the
you
point
do
of the task
go
force.
to, if you do go to try to go through the appeals process, you're gonna probably have a representative from each of those 5 departments sitting
Talking,
in that
yeah.
room saying, these are the citations that we did and why. Because it ain't going to be just one little thing. It's going to be a whole sheet of all these different departments. Because my thing was, you put all 5 of those people on the sidewalk in front of that piece of property and start talking. Because it's going to draw neighbors out. It's going to draw the property owner out probably. It's going to draw a lot of attention when they're standing out there saying, I see this just from here. And they also have the reports where the police say, we've actually had 10 calls here in the last 27 days.
Okay.
The fire department says we've done 3 overdoses off of this property in the last 30 days. And the health department says, we've had a couple, people complain about XYZ. And, the building department says, and I can see, 5 citations from right here on the sidewalk.
Okay.
Plus, you get neighbors that come out going, when they see, all these city officials standing outside, and then suddenly they're like, what's going on? And you're like, hey, have you ever had any issues with this property? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have, and nobody wants to listen. And now you get more information.
And Chris had an example of that the last meeting, where I guess building department or somebody showed up, and then all of a sudden, I guess the owner came out. And
Oh, the Tilden grass. Yeah, I was telling you about the Tilden grass.
That, and
When-
we got another one on
Yeah.
Crown. We got something.
It was Dale and Larry show up, and somebody was throwing the stuff actually in the dumpster, but when they saw 2 city officials pull up, they hightailed it because they didn't know what was
Yeah.
going on, so they just got out of Dodge. And then,
So let me ask
what were the
this.
3
Let me
ones?
ask this. So just staying on task a little bit. So if we do appeals board, we would have to get that approved through council, which I don't see why they would say no. As long as the ordinance is passing and it's part of that, I think that would be a good thing.
here's my
And then,
here's my concern about having council try to pick 3. We got 7 council people, and we're all gonna agree on 3 people.
well, that's why I suggested that it come through us first, so that we can kind of get the 3 people.
and
that
then say,
we-
hey, we like this person, we like that person for this, and we put it
and
out
then
there.
we can go to council and
recommend.
explain.
Yes.
I mean, but I would be. I mean, that's fine. I'd be okay with the safety service director recommending them and council
Yeah.
just giving our okay. I mean, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. I guess either way, we're kind of on this, but
Yeah.
multiple ways to do it.
Are you saying you all would pick the folks and then you send it to council for their input or approval or whatever?
Well, we would take it to council and we would explain recommendation, why we're recommending these people. And basically make a case for these 3 to be on that board.
And then we go to a yes, no vote.
This is huge for Norwood, guys. I'm smiling because this is what people, the kind of leadership that people have been waiting for. Even the talk of it. I'm just being honest. So when you see me smiling, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because this is phenomenal. This, to my knowledge, this is the first time in the history of Norwood that our city leaders have come together, identified an issue, realized that we got to have a little fairness to both sides, but then pushed and agreed resident participation on that level. And with that, I'll close with this. I have 5 individuals that would be perfect. One is a business owner, but yes, he's had a background, which I don't have liberty to discuss him, so I won't. But he's a tremendous asset to this community, okay? And I do business with him too, okay? But if we allow the law department to put the stipulations, the people that you really need on this thing, because I'm not just advocating for me. I smile, but I'm just joking really. I know of 5 people that would be fantastic. But if we restrict them based on how our leadership corners things, then we're really only going to get the same kind of people that do the same old things all the time anyway. So I would advocate that we lift any of that. You look at them, you judge them by their own, by the fruit they bear, not allow the police department to say, well, this individual has a felony. And Gabby, you've introduced me to someone who's a wonderful resident. But the way our city is structured, that individual, could not come and be a part of something like this. And this is historic for our community. So along with that, when you do pick the people, of course, I think I'm going to be involved in some capacity, but let's make it fair to where everybody's able to do it. If they love Norwood and they've proven to be a solid resident, let's not have restrictions. And I can guarantee you, the chief, if you were sitting here now, say, I love you, bro, but you know you're going to put restrictions and say, well, they can't have this, they can't have that. But that was 10 years ago. They're business owners. They have a family here. They invest in our community. We want those people involved. So that would be my encouragement to you all. Clear the slate and judge people on their own merit based on what they represent themselves to be to us as residents, property owners, or business owners. That's all I'm going to say.
And I appreciate the kind words of saying this is progress, and I feel like this appeals process would be what would ensure the best that we can within this law's language to ensure that there is a fair enforcement of it and there's a checks and balances process. Now, there might be a lot of people that want to come and appeal, but like you said, there's going to be representatives saying, hey, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. Well, that one's not happening. But there might be that person that tried to abate it, but just maybe didn't have all the knowledge in here and didn't get something in right on time and stuff like that, where it could be worked with. So I think that is huge, and this is something that we should definitely move forward on. And I do like the resident representation on it. But going into like people with pass and all that, I don't know that we will or won't accept anybody with a pass. But we would want people with good character and good quality backgrounds to make these calls, because there's a lot of responsibility.
Background, you still eliminate a lot of people who have. With respecting the individual, I've recently spent a lot of time with an individual that I'm telling you, he loves this community. His family loves this community, and they're very much a part of our city and our community.
Well, there's jobs that I can't get, and I work in the educational coaching field that I can't get if there's responsibilities that I can't do if I have a shady background.
Like I can tell you that I know somebody who overdosed in a house with 4 needles and one sticking out of his arm. I wouldn't want him on that appeals
No,
board.
I'm not talking about that, guys. I'm talking about people, and not putting anybody on the spot. I'm looking at Gavin, because he recently introduced me to a gentleman. And that gentleman's entire family is invested, very much vested into our city. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay? You cannot tell me that we can't open this thing up to where that individual, I'm not speaking for him, I haven't talked to him about this, but you can't tell me we have some input here, and because of status quo mentality, we can't modify it and change it so that somebody like that could feel totally embraced by this community,
right,
and probably is a better resident than a lot of people that haven't had a pass. So
see,
don't get that with me.
I'm not looking for somebody to put on their resume, hey, I've got a felony record.
Right.
But
We're not gonna do background checks. And all that.
but when you go through the law department, I'm just telling you, that's been their standard, even for all of their community things. That's their standard.
Well, we can't speak on that here. I mean, we don't have that kind of data.
I'm asking you all to make that a part of your recommendation to level the playing field. Guys, this is monumental for Norwood.
I agree it is, but I would personally have a problem with anybody with a felony conviction to be on something like this.
If you met the gentleman I'm talking about, Chris, you go, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, I didn't think, oh, you'd be perfect.
Yeah, I have a cousin of mine who has a shady past. He has a couple felonies, and he turned it around, and he's a good guy, but I wouldn't trust him with anything like this.
But what if you could trust him? I'm not talking about somebody you wouldn't trust. What if you could trust him? People change.
Oh, I know.
Okay? I'm not going to.
I don't think we're going to put anything.
All right, we got to.
I'm talking about.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah, we won't put anything in here though about stopping people's felonies.
I didn't plan on that.
I know.
I don't know about that.
I've still got 2 exams to take before midnight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So appeals. Anybody see anything there? I do not see anything of note that,
Well, hold on.
Where are we at?
except only thing I'm seeing is further language of activity where we switch to citation.
What page are you on?
You talking about burden of proof,
Yeah.
Okay.
affirmative defenses?
Where are you?
burden of proof, 1, 2, 3, 4th page.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I have questions in there, guys. And that is, I mean, basically you're saying to avoid fines for my, nuisances, calls, I have to evict. What happens if I don't win the eviction? If I'm gonna, and see, you're set for citations, so that's not a conviction, we've already made that clear. So then I go to the judge in Hamilton County, Mr. Bonzo, I'm sure you've been there, and I say, okay, well, they've got 3 citations. Now, usually I would win if I have some documentation, but if they've got an attorney or something, and he starts dissecting this, and they say, well, he wasn't convicted of these citations, I'm gonna get thrown right out of court. Where do I stand as a chronic nuisance? May I inquire?
They're going to write the document, here's who's going to know the Development Association, and you're going to have a problem.
I know. And that's what I'm just talking.
Especially when you come in and say, I'm in Norwood.
Now, if it says I tried to evict them, and of course, if they continue to be a nuisance, I'm going to have to try again, I guess. Of course, until I get an eviction, I'm not going to win, especially the second time around. Some things to
I'm
think
not
about.
sure.
Yeah.
I
Because we-
think, I'm frustrated because it seems like we keep getting pushed back on it.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I mean, this is a pretty big deal, though.
it's
I mean, this.
huge, guys.
I will just say this is gonna be a game changer for the city. So I mean, we want to make sure we get it right. I mean,
Well, wait till
And I
it's
want to say I
muted.
applaud you guys. I want to make sure we walk out of here knowing I applaud you all. I think God set each 4 of you in motion for such a time as this. This is huge, and I applaud you all for addressing this.
so on number 3, it says how he showed no reasonable care and diligence. I think if you're trying to evict the person, that would show reasonable care and diligence to allow you to not encumber that fine for that offense, or further fines for that offense. Am I wrong? Is everybody following where I'm at?
Yes, I'm following exactly where you're at. And, I mean, I would just maybe ask for a little more clarification.
So if you go in and try to evict somebody because of this, okay? And the Hamilton County says, nope, sorry, not held up. And you get cited again for this, and you come back to the appeals process and you show, I went to court, I tried to evict them, sorry, it didn't work this time. Then the appeals board can go, okay, he showed that he had knowledge, he showed that he tried to fix the problem. You more than likely win that appeal.
Can you write that in there?
Well, see, I don't want to have to
That
appeal.
you don't
and
have to write it because
hopefully
it's
win.
written there already.
Just so you guys know, I'm going to follow the law, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been in eviction court thousands of times, and I've never lost. But I usually won't go unless I'm sure I'm going to win.
No, we understand. And what our hope is that with this ordinance in play, with giving you citations from the police department or from the building department and all that you can go in with, is that will help you have ammunition. And that's not a guarantee, but I don't see why we can add in a line saying the language, but add in language that
Next
to.
word is file eviction.
Have you read through ORC 532117?
Yes, basically it's just file language.
Okay. Well, it says right there in that paragraph, okay, that spells it all out for you.
Which
It says
3?
under
Is it 3?
burden of proof A3, or B3, I'm sorry,
Can you
B3.
point out the point where you said it spells it out for me? Because I don't see it. I'm sorry.
He or she had no knowledge of a nuisance, meaning he wasn't notified that the nuisance was there, okay? Nobody sent him a letter, but all of a sudden he gets a citation, okay? And he can prove that there was no letter sent out, okay? And then it says, and could not with reasonable care and diligence have known of the nuisance activity. That means that he still didn't get a letter, okay? But he was fined.
Well, I think even furthermore, in that paragraph it says he or she promptly took all actions necessary to abate the nuisance, including without limitation compliance with the requirements of Ohio Revised Code 5321 .17C and 5321.04A9. To me, if you go to court, and what this reads me, you go to court, you try to evict, even if you lose, you took all actions necessary to abate the nuisance, or the nuisance. So to me, that would read that you would not be fined for that. And if you came back later, where the guy was still there and going, you could take that to the people and say, hey, I tried to abate this. All I can do again is try to go back again. And you would be worked with, I would think, from the task force.
But see, we have to spell this out in a
appeals
legal
board.
manner. We can't spell it out in common terms. We have to spell it out in a legal
So I
manner.
would recommend reading those probably more. But to me, that's what it sounds like.
Is he
It's,
still fined at that point?
to me, that sounds like a protection. Well, it would be fine to get to that point. There would probably be a fine, or even if he decided, hey, I'm going to eviction before the fine process even started, through those two. So if there's more calls while you're in that eviction process, to me, you've took all actions necessary to abate the nuisance without, limitation, compliance, and requirements of those two Ohio revised codes.
Clarification, maybe I have to go to an attorney because,
If you also look at C, underneath the 3,
yep,
it says if the owner performed a background check prior to leasing and is in the process of eviction either at the time of the third nuisance or second felony drug offense, or as a result of the third nuisance or second drug offense, the city of Norwood shall not deem the property a nuisance. So if you're already going through an eviction process, the city can't sit there and cite you again for that.
Yeah,
Property.
that
As long as you send the task force or the safety service director a letter saying, hey, I understand that I'm in violation of this and I'm looking to abate the problem, you can't be cited again.
okay. I mean, I'm just saying if I lose the eviction, then I'm out of the eviction process, and the problem's still gonna be there. It's just you guys are forcing my hand
Again.
before I'm ready to win.
For the third time, if you go through the eviction process and they deny the eviction, you come to the Board of Appeals. You say, hey, I lost my eviction.
I get it. I'm not looking to appeal. I am looking to have a fair law where I can
This is
follow it
absolutely
and
fair
not
to-
be
in my eyes.
violation of the law and have to go to an
B3 and C, I just highlighted on there as renters protect, or landlords, property owners protection. Renters, or landlords protection, rather. That you're taking all actions possible. And I noted here with the what if eviction is lost. To me, you're taking all actions possible. And then C, you did a background check prior to renting. You're in the process of an eviction. I think maybe we can put in there if eviction's lost or something. But I mean, we can't. I'm not sure if anybody else has any suggestions of what we could add in to ease that. But these
Thank
two
you for
sections,
thinking about it.
these two sections
We should move
are.
on.
If there, I was gonna say, if there are, I'll
Protection.
bring them back. For
Yes.
sure, we'll get more people to look at this.
Yeah. Just the notes I have there, I do have, so when I go back and relook at this, maybe something pops in, but right now I don't have that. Maybe adding in a line that, abates the fines if eviction's lost and because you are by this language doing what you can
But you'd already
to the
said-
best of your ability. You're not just over here like, well, whatever. You're actually actively working on this. And again, this is not something that we want to hurt any good landlords or good property owners in that. There's knuckleheads out there that, like we talked about earlier, don't live here and they don't care, stuff like that. That's what we want to hinder.
Just gotta narrow down.
There's enough light. What, I did miss the sentence that you
Knuckleheads.
said. Knuckle.
That's what,
Those are my thugs.
that's what I was called when I was younger. I was a knucklehead. I was a knucklehead.
I think you said out the wrong. You gotta close the gap, or you just said I would think, which means you don't know. So anything that's left open, the window of opportunity for interpretation, if you can close those gaps, even if it does add another page, I think you should consider that. I think he's got
Yeah.
a great point.
Yeah, and we're
Unless
on.
you've gone through the eviction.
Yeah, and we're on draft 1 here, or draft 2 of an ongoing process, and the law department's probably gonna have their comments. I think we're all probably gonna come back to the next meeting with some comments. So those, I would think, will turn into I knows, and it says here, it says here, in my opinion.
I'll agree until the end.
We're getting there. So is that it for that page? That's really all I had. So moving on from there,
Yes. So
under the section, just so I can,
impact.
impact. Yeah, it's on the last page. So impact.
Okay, so this first A says, once a property has been deemed a chronic nuisance property, the owner of that property shall be charged for the actual cost of each subsequent service by the city of Norwood for a nuisance or felony drug activity for that property.
So that,
Yeah, so the language we were talking about there, and I think it's talking about the man hours for the runs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
so if they've reached their max, anything after that max, let's say the police department can charge for their manpower at an overdose.
Plus the civil penalty.
Correct.
Now, in a multi-unit building, what if you have multiple issues going? I guess those are separate issues, or
It's all the same building because it's 2 to 4.
That's why we're adding in the
5+.
language to say if you're on a 5 unit plus, it would be that many calls in that amount of time. I mean, we added that language in. Now and we were satisfied with the beginning.
No,
But now
what's
it
the
seems
I
like
got
we're
someone under eviction, then an apartment, I mean, I have a 30-unit building, so an apartment 7 down the hall, someone else has some issue now.
well, but you're able to show those citations from that individual that this is the one you're citing.
So now I got a whole new issue 2 weeks later. That's a new, fresh start then.
So, question on this. What
I'm
is
not-
the timeline to? So what is the timeline to? So is this like in forever and ever that if they...
It says that down
2
there.
years.
Well, I know they got the 6 months, but then...
2 or whatever number it is for however many units in 6 month time, you're a nuisance property, and that falls for 2 years.
Oh,
Is that
2 years.
correct?
2 years.
If at any point during the 2-year period, another nuisance activity or felony activity occurs on the property, the 2-year period shall restart from the date of that activity.
Yeah, that's going to be... I mean, you'll never get off of it for a 30-unit building, so...
Well, this is only after you've been declared a nuisance, right?
Yep.
But I mean, but any just like a minor... Some of these I would consider are somewhat minor police runs, not great.
Well, it's my understanding in the verge that we went over already that once you come in and you abate the problem or you show that you're abating the problem, you're no longer in danger of being called a nuisance property for those citations and those events.
Right, but you're still
So-
on the list for 2 years, though.
No. You show you're abating the problem. Am I correct here? In the language, you show you're abating the problem. And you show the citations or you show the eviction of
You've
that
not been
resident.
declared, yeah.
Yeah, no.
If you are abating the once you get a letter saying that, hey, watch it now, you're on, and you start abating the problem, then you're showing, here's my paperwork, I'm trying to fix this problem. You're not getting a fine or nothing yet, because you're showing we're trying to abate the problem. That's what it says here.
And by the way, this is not, I mean, if you look at the current administration, current council, I would say, you know what, like, I don't foresee there being a huge issue, but you also got to look at this too, that it may not be this current administration, current council having to enforce this. And, to me, if the 2 years stays on, even after you either abate it or you pay your $150 fine, and then for every single one after that, you get another 2 years on, and you have to pay the actual cost of that run. To me, it just seems like somebody could use that and abuse that to make that go on forever. But that's just me. I mean, I'll take
I
more.
don't think you have a problem. Multiple units.
It might be harder for them to show, but if they're coming in, they're saying, hey, these people were cited, and they're being shown these people were cited, and they show that that person's evicted, they're no longer an issue, those sightings do not hold weight. So like you say, it might be better for a single family, it might be easier. So if I rent my house out, this person's doing crazy stuff, and I got to kick them out. I show, hey, that person's gone now.
You've not been declared yet.
Yeah, like you're still in the danger. You're in the danger zone stage or whatever. Like you might be a nuisance property. It's where you go over that threshold is the danger. And I'm not sure here, but taking so say the same people get cited for fighting in the parking lot or something, and you send in a letter saying, hey, here's what we're doing. I've sent these letters, copy these letters to the residents saying, hey, you're in violation of our lease agreement. You're in violation of the Norwood Ordinance. You know, this is your warning. The next event, termination lease or eviction proceedings will be started. That is abating the problem. That is showing proof of the problem being abated or attempted to be abated, which will be a lot more than a lot of people are going to give us, but would satisfy.
It doesn't say attempted, by the way, if I may get in here, but.
We can argue every letter or every word of this,
I mean,
but
we absolutely could, and I'm on
We're
limited
trying.
time here, so I'm going to end the meeting
This
soon.
is my livelihood, so
I'm going to have another meeting, but the problem is that we can't. We've been here an hour and a half now. No, 2 hours debating on a 6-page ordinance letter by letter. We're going to have another meeting.
I mean,
On behalf of residents, you guys have addressed a lot of issues that I personally know are going to make residents much more comfortable. So I apologize if
So-
it's long, but on something of this magnitude, I mean, it was needed. I'm sorry.
well, I would challenge this. I would challenge this. The next time we meet, maybe have some solutions. So maybe how do you see us handling multi-unit, larger units? It's like you own some smaller, but you own larger units. You're right.
Yes.
Like so. Maybe some suggestions what you would like to see, because you are in that industry, or we're maybe not. Maybe we're missing something or overlooking something, maybe to where we can kind of be.
my personal opinion, we should go back to the very beginning. Because there's tons of laws already. And to be adding more laws to the book, especially in this
What we're trying to do is condense a ton of stuff that are on the books and allow a certain number of, allow this one committee to address one ordinance, not 20 ordinances.
Why not just enforce one of the 20 and solve the problem?
I think of it this way. I think of it this way. Say you're in school and you get in trouble in this teacher's class, and then you go over here and you get in trouble in this teacher's class, and then that one's, but they don't talk, so they don't know. You know, to them you're just he gets occasional trouble. But say they talk, and then say they have that conference and they talk, and then you get sent to the principal's office. This is being sent to the principal's office because they're talking. They're saying, "Hey, this person's a problem over here. They're also a problem over here. Hey, they're a problem here too." I mean, we have to have something like this. I mean, we can't just go back to where you get that. I mean, it's not working. That's why we're talking about this today. We need something different. And I would very, very, very much welcome suggestions on how to handle bigger units and properties. And I've asked James, or I'm going to take James' advice on some of these things, because he does have properties and that he rents out, and he knows the struggle of it too. And
If you open the door and let him come with suggestions, my attorney's not here, and I'll get him here to help him.
Well, you have my email. Email some suggestions in, and
I'd like to get can we get an updated ordinance in a couple days, do you think? Like, are you going to make the changes to this?
I'll try to get the changes out this weekend.
Okay.
well, we only have half a page to go through.
I mean, it's Father's Day, so
We
I'm trying to...
were on item A here on impact, and we're talking about the man hours for the runs of service and that. But the rest of it, I don't really see a problem with it. It's just the fee structure, the amounts, the collective maybe. I mean, I like that amounts, or these amounts that are listed. I think it's pretty aggressive, but it's hits them where it hurts in the pocketbook, gets their attention.
Did homeowners have any?
No, none. I mean, I'm a homeowner, but
I mean, if I'm looking at this as a homeowner and not a council member, and I look at this and I go, well, why isn't it $5?
yeah.
Right? But you will have a...
I'm not talking about totally unreasonable, but as I look at this and I go down, my eyes quickly get to that one number. And of course that means multiple problems, but if I'm a good part, but I happen to keep getting bad people, they weren't bad when I leased it, but their cousins are, and they keep coming by the house, now you're going to get a lot of money out of my pocket. I'm just wondering, well...
In the event of that happening, but
you guys have done a great job. This is a great step. You know,
So does anybody else have any sort of issues with this as far as the impact section?
Not at this time.
Not at this time, okay. I don't either. I just want to ask. So other penalties, and this is the last little bit, so we can at least get through one draft of this in one meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Tracy, but I would like to at least get through one. Other penalties. Anybody see anything alarming?
Okay, so a separate offense. So this is standard language. A separate offense shall be deemed committed each day on which a violation occurs or continues. I mean, that's standard language in our criminal code. Is offense the same thing as like this civil penalty, or is that just applying to item A, where it talks about the $150 fine, the criminal fine? Because I mean, basically,
That's talking about the citations.
that's not just talking about the criminal fine. The
So-
criminal.
If somebody gets cited for a drug offense,
Right.
okay, that's on the property, okay, police go back for the, and they're citing again for the drug offense.
Same day?
Next day.
Next day?
So it's a separate offense. So
Oh, this is basically saying a separate offense shall be deemed committed each day on which a violation occurs.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say, like, so if it happens today, but it happens against tomorrow, we're going to count those as separate offenses, not the same offense because they were within a certain amount
So
of time.
shouldn't there? But there should be some time, right? That I guess. Okay, that's fine. I'll take this out and look at it some more. But I don't want to see somebody, a property owner or homeowner, or getting property owner probably more, but getting a fine on one day, right? And then an offense while they're trying to address the fine or trying to whatever.
again, that comes back to the letter. If they send a letter in saying, "Hey, I'm going to abate this problem,"
Okay.
we need better communication from people that we don't get. That's the biggest problem that I've found, was that we don't get communication from landlords, from owners. From,
So, well, moving on to C. So it says permits including those for occupancy, health, granted to the homeowner may be subject to revocation based on declaring that a property is a chronic nuisance. I think this is kind of like not needed because we don't offer rental permits anymore. So,
I mean, I think this is saying though, like if the let's just look at Fun Factory. I mean, Fun Factory would they fall under here, or is it just residential?
this is just residential.
It's not. It wouldn't be commercial.
the Fun Factory as it was, or the Fun Factory as it may be.
This is all property.
Yeah.
Should.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we're in our heads imagining that, but I'm just saying that.
I mean, if we want to add business in there, we'll have to add business in there, because we've only got
Yeah,
single
this is
family
like more
homes,
of a
multi-family.
residential thing, I thought.
And where's that?
If we
I mean,
want,
I'm not seeing commercial.
on the front, when we added in the single family on the first page,
It says no, but A1. You're saying okay, because if you look at property or premises, it says any public or private building, lot, parcel, dwelling, rental unit, real estate, or land or portion thereby, including property used as residential or commercial property. Property consisting of more than one unit shall be limited to the unit or portion of property on which any nuisance activity occurs. Which I think you should probably clarify what that means then, that last line.
Number C.
No, on G, it would be on definitions, G. But anyways, I'm going to take this, especially when I get the updated copy, review it. I'm going to pass it along to other people in the city, hopefully get some additional feedback for us so we can make a really good ordinance here.
Could I just ask those basis of the amounts, where did that come from to apply to these? That's what I'm just asking.
that was an aggressive approach towards it. That was an aggressive approach towards this.
Well, who came up with it?
That was a discussion.
So the amounts are for the first one's 150,
It's a
second one.
proposed amount.
It just like keeps doubling kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it gets exponential though between 3, 4, but I hear you.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, so what? So you four,
No, I did not.
No, we have not voted
I
on
have
anything.
not. It was on there when I
It
saw
was
it
a
today.
proposed discussion that we had that I liked the amounts.
is it
Tracy
set-
liked the amounts.
Is it set, is this what you're gonna go to council with?
Not necessarily.
This is our
We have
first
feedback on
draft.
the amounts.
So we're gonna relook at it, but I mean, I
Would you
don't.
be open to taking community input input on that, or
We've been open all night, Mr. James. So yes, yeah, I know what you. Yeah,
How about,
I know what you mean.
for
I know
the
what you
sake
mean,
of
yes, I would
asking,
say, I
what
think-
fine amounts would you like to consider?
150, 250, 750, and then 2,000.
See, to me,
Because if I'm in, this is my business, so if I'm in business, you gotta work with me. I'm gonna address the issues, because whether I spend 150, that's still a loss out of my pocket, out of my profit. So I'm gonna take it serious. It's not the amount that's gonna make me get serious. It's the fact that, hey, you guys are supposed to be money. You don't want me to go up on your rent. You gotta comply, so I'm not paying the city these fees. But to say 10 grand, man, I would never bring anything large to the just because I can't control those factors.
You get fines that heavy for littering. You're supposed to.
You what?
Well, I'm just,
That's a good example. The law's there. Did they ever find people doing it? They just pass another law trying to make them live.
I mean, so, but in my eyes, making these laws a little less aggressive, well, a little passe doesn't make them.
yeah, but you're trying to work with the people that are, this is their business, so it's a little bit different. I'm just,
No, I appreciate it. I wrote it down, so I'm gonna consider. I'm gonna look at it, mull it over myself, and I'll give my suggestions. We're gonna have a revised one coming in next time. We'll look at and further.
Yes, yeah, whenever we
suggestions.
could get that, that'd be awesome. I mean, I know you're busy and it's Father's Day weekend, but just whenever.
can you guys include me on the
I'll make sure you get it. Yeah.
all right. I guess we'll adjourn for the night.
Sounds good.
All righty.
Thank you all.